Shell scripts should just do the job. They don't need to look nice. They should just work. And yeah, that's true. Normally shell scripts just ask the client, the user, for something. They just display the question and ask for user input. Very often the input is even not controlled. The script just takes what the user gives. That's all. In the next step, the script just performs some actions. During those actions, very often the script is full of log messages displaying what the script is currently doing. At the end, the script sometimes displays OK. In the best case, green OK. Well, but system admins also would like to see something nice. That's why we have also some tools allowing us to generate windows that look a little bit better. That's not a graphical window, that's a text mode. But the text here is aligned in such a way that a user may have impression that's working with a graphical window. To be honest, that's a text user interface. TUI, not the graphical user interface, but text user interface. That interface is still a text, but looks like it would be something graphical. In such a window, the user can select options that would like to select, and if wants, confirm that action by pressing OK. As a result, in the script shell, in a variable, we can have values selected by that user. The most important part working here, the most important rule, is the command Dialog. Of course, the dialog itself is only a command, and if you would like to create such windows, you need to fully understand all the options that we can send to dialog command. So let's have a look into the dialog command and its options. First of all, most probably dialog is currently not installed on your computer. What to do? Of course, install it. The command that needs to be started is yum install dialog, and that's on the Red Hat family of Linux systems. If you are working on Ubuntu, run apt install dialog. Of course, that command needs to be started as a super user. That's why we write down the sudo. As you see, the package itself is not huge. It can be installed even on the systems that don't have too much free disk space. And honestly, that's all. The package is installed. Let's have a look into the help. And what can we find here? First of all, good news. Yes, that program indeed can display dialog boxes from the shell scripts. Perfect. The next part shows the syntax of that command. That's dialog, options, and end widget options. In the second line, we can read that the options is just an abbreviation for the common options, followed by the box options. Indeed, using dialog, we can build even more complicated windows, and then those windows need to be nested in each other. In such case, the end widget option should be used. But in the simpler case, that's enough just to use the options part. You will be able to display a message to the user or ask a simple question and accept answer from the user. Some of those options are named here common options because they are more general about how the command works, and the other are classified as the box options because they define what exactly will be displayed to the user. Let's start with reading some examples of the common options. For example, if you would like to display a window without graphical lines, but just using plus, minus, or pipe, we can use option ASCII lines. Each window can also have a title. If you have more questions to ask to the user, you can run multiple times the dialog command and send every time the same back title. This will make an impression of working with constantly one application. You can get attention of the user by generating a sound from your script. In such case, use option beep. There are also multiple options allowing you to decide if you would like to display the OK, cancel, yes, no, or decide which one button should be the default one. There are much more of them, so let's jump to the box options now. The box options decide what indeed will be displayed to the user. And so we can find here the option calendar. Using it, we can display a question to the user about a date. Option checklist allows to display a list of options. User can decide which options are important for him or her, mark them, and after pressing OK, those options will be sent to the script. Input box will allow to display a window with an edit file. That could be, for example, the directory where the software should be installed. Password box is very similar to the input box, but instead of displaying the letters on the screen, you can see asterisk. That's perfect when you need to enter a password that should not be visible by the other users. Progress box, as the name says, will display progress of the script. Yes, some of those options are really advanced. So if you believe the help, all the options should immediately start working without any problems. So let's check. One of the simplest windows will just display text, where you can read the text and confirm it pressing OK. In such case, we should use option message box. Next, enter the text that should be displayed and decide about the size of the window that will be shown. If you would like to work on the default values, just pass 0 and 0, height 0 and width 0. Dialog will decide by itself about the size of that window. And is that window really something what we dreamed of? Indeed, we can read here the text and we have the OK button, but the frames are not the perfect frames. What has happened? Why the frames are so strange? The frames, but also the other characters that we currently see on the screen, are generated somewhere on the remote system, in the shell. The characters that are displayed by my local terminal were generated there and sent to me. The standard used to generate the symbols there on the remote system may be a different standard from the one used on my local machine to decode the values. And we are not discussing here only the content of the letters that are displayed here, for example the letter Q. That's also about the format of that letter, for example white Q or black X. Each of those information was somehow encoded there on the remote system and needs to be decoded here locally on my system. We must have a kind of a mismatch somewhere between the remote system and the local system, and the consequence is that we are not seeing nice frames on the screen. For the time, I will just press OK and note that another bad thing has happened. What is bad? The dialog has finished, but the window is still displayed on the screen. Wouldn't it be better if it would disappear from here? So let's solve the problems one by one, starting with the clearing the screen. That should not be difficult. At the beginning of the command, before message box, add option clear. The window is shown, it's ugly as it was before, but after pressing OK, it disappears. And that's good. So let's make next corrections. The frames were ugly, so let's change them. With the help of the option ASCII lines, we will cause that dialog command will not try to generate lines. Instead of that, it will generate signs of the plus, minus and pipe. I know that's not the perfect view of the window, but at least that's something what we can easily read. So it's not so bad now. Be aware that it's really simple to make a mistake when passing parameters to the dialog command. The order of the options is well defined. Would I append the ASCII lines options at the end of the command, the window will display again an ugly window, and additionally after pressing OK, I will see error message. Dialog expected to see something related to the message box, and the ASCII lines is an option from other family. It doesn't belong to the message box. But we know what should be corrected to make it good. We just need to keep the order of the options. If ASCII lines is before message box, then everything works okay. But let's try to display the frames in the correct way. Unfortunately, that's not an easy task. Why? Because we may have different systems on the remote machine. That could be Linux, Unix, AIX, Solaris, or even something else. Moreover, each of those systems can be configured differently. Basic information about character encoding could be displayed with the help of command locale. In our case, we are working on defaults. Language is English and the encoding is UTF-8. That's not so bad. Most of the characters should be displayed in the correct way. I will not say that every one of them, but at least most of them. So, why the lines are not displayed correctly? That's because there are multiple libraries that still can try to do some kind of translation. One of the libraries trying to do the translation is kurses. Luckily, it's enough to change the value of one environment variables and the translation will not be done. Just type export kurses no UTF-8 ACS equals 1. After changing that variable, we can call again the dialog command with the same options as previously, maybe except of the ASCII lines, because we know that ASCII lines eliminates the true lines at all. Now the window is drawn in the good way. We see lines, white lines, black lines, and those are not the plus, minus and pipe characters. And what to do if the lines are still not drawn correctly? In such case, it's still possible that the terminal configuration needs to be changed. In my case, I'm using put terminal. Just go into the settings and here check the section appearance. Now go into the font settings. It's still possible that you are using the incorrect font or maybe the correct font, but the script is incorrect. In my case, everything is working, so I will not change anything. But remember, maybe that's something what can help in your problem. The next setting that can help with solving the lines problem is the translation. Note that in my case, translation is set to UTF-8, so that's exactly the same value as we could see after running the locale command. Should your system use national character encoding, please consider changing the option also here. Note that the settings need to be the same on the remote system and locally in the terminal, and you can use quite different terminal than the putty. Putty is just one example of the terminals, but there are plenty of them. So if your company is using a different Unix system on the remote host, and if you are using different terminals, you have really a lot of work to do to make the lines drawn correctly. But when you finally find the correct settings, it's just enough to propagate them from one machine to the other, and the lines should be drawn correctly. After finding the correct match between those settings, you can finally enjoy nice windows displayed in the shell window. And remember that the plan B is always to use ASCII lines option. In such case, instead of drawing the lines, basic minus, plus and pipe will be used to display the windows. Generally, that's not a bad solution. In such way, you can make the life of the system administrator a bit nicer, with nicer windows and intuitive interface.